One of my dreams has always been to run around as a green dinosaur turning what I eat into eggs. Perfect. Alright, that was a bit of an exaggeration, but in all seriousness, I love the Yoshi games, partially because of how weird they are. A dinosaur running around with a baby Italian plumber, eating his foes to turn them into eggs that he then throws at other enemies? Yeah, I know it sounds bizarre, but trust me, it's awesome. So, Super Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island. First off, this game has basically nothing to do with the original Super Mario World. Even the gameplay style is completely different, so from now on we're just going to call it Yoshi's Island and pretend that it wasn't a sequel. Development on the game began shortly after the completion of the original Super Mario World, and it was released on the Super Nintendo Entertainment System in 1995. The game had a very unique coloring book art style, which heavily contrasted with the art styles of other games at the time, such as Donkey Kong Country. And that wasn't a bad thing. In fact, the arts and crafts aesthetic really set the game apart, and it's a theme which has stuck with the Yoshi series ever since. Besides its art style, this game is notable for being one of only a few Super Nintendo games to make use of the advanced Super FX 2 chip, which the game used for some of its impressive 3D visuals and effects. Critics and gamers alike loved the game, and they all felt that it was a fantastic platformer at the time. And that's pretty high praise considering the Super Nintendo was home to some amazing platformers such as Super Mario World and Donkey Kong Country. This game was so well received that it spawned a whole series of platforming adventures starring Yoshi, not Mario. And most of the games in the Yoshi series are really good, so we should take a look at where it all started. The story begins with the stork bringing baby Mario and baby Luigi to their parents. Suddenly, Bowser's evil minion Kamek appears and tries to kidnap the babies. However, he doesn't realize that he only got one of them as the other fell down into the darkness. The baby that fell was Mario, and he landed right on Yoshi's back. Once the Yoshis figured out what had happened, they decided to help Mario rescue his brother Luigi. The game is a platformer with 6 worlds and 8 levels per world. You go through each level as one of 8 different colored Yoshis carrying baby Mario on your back. This game has a pretty unique health system. You collect stars to fill up your health gauge, and you can have up to 30 of them. Then, instead of Yoshi actually losing health when you get hit, Mario will get trapped in a bubble and fly off your back. Then you start steadily losing health and will keep losing it until you touch Mario to get him back. If you fail to grab Mario before you run out of health, Kamek's minions will grab him and carry him off to Bowser's castle and you'll lose a life. It really is a pretty cool and unique system. Except for one problem: the crying. When Mario flies off your back, he begins to make the most obnoxious sound that the Super Nintendo is capable of producing. Isn't that just awful? That is your motivation for not getting hit, so you won't have to listen to that horrible sound. Anyway, as you go, you meet all manner of enemies. The most common are Shy Guys, returning from Super Mario Bros. 2. You do have other common enemies like the Piranha Plants and Koopa Troopas. Then there are some less common enemies like bandits, who are kind of like Shy Guys but will run out to attack you and steal baby Mario. Then there are Fly Guys, who are basically flying Shy Guys. Really, there are just so many different types of enemies I couldn't possibly go over them all here. And I like that, it keeps the game interesting. As you go, you'll find some enemies that you just hate. Personally, I hate these piranha plants that shoot these spiky balls at you. You have to hit them 3 times to kill them, and there are some places where you just don't have a good angle to hit them without getting hit yourself. It can be really tough and annoying. Although, many enemies are pretty easy to dispose of. You can jump on a lot of them like in Super Mario Bros. Then some of them you can eat. Yeah, Yoshi has a huge appetite and he satisfies it by catching enemies on his tongue and swallowing them whole. Most enemies, when you swallow them, will turn into an egg. Yoshi can have up to 6 eggs following him around and then he can throw these eggs. Yeah, I couldn't make this up if I tried. Throwing eggs is one of the main unique mechanics in the game. You can do it to kill enemies, clear obstacles, and solve puzzles. It was a really cool idea which has remained a really important part of the series, and it continues to set the Yoshi games apart from the main Mario series. And while we're talking about weird things in this game, let's look at these transformations. Every once in a while, you'll come across a bubble with a picture of some vehicle in it. When you pop the bubble, Yoshi will transform into the pictured vehicle. Sometimes you'll be a helicopter or maybe a really cool car. These transformations are kind of like temporary power-ups and help you get past some difficult terrain or allow you to reach some collectibles. One of the coolest in my opinion is the submarine. You can swim through the water and shoot torpedoes at enemies. Yeah, it's really cool. The controls in this game are really quite good. You use left and right on the D-pad to move, which is pretty straightforward. Then you can press down on the D-pad to duck or go down pipes, and up to look up or go indoors. You press B to jump, and you hold B to perform a flutter jump. The flutter jump allows Yoshi to remain in the air for a longer period of time, allowing you to make longer jumps or save yourself from falling into a pit. Now for one of the strangest mechanics, eating enemies. If you press Y, Yoshi will stick out his tongue to eat an enemy. This is actually something that was featured in the original Super Mario World. However, in this game, eating enemies is very different. Now when you grab an enemy in your mouth, Yoshi will just hold him there. If you press Y again, you'll spit the enemy out, and you can use this to attack other enemies that are in front of you. However, if you press down on the D-pad when you have an enemy in your mouth, Yoshi will swallow it and turn into an egg. As I mentioned earlier, you can throw these eggs to defeat enemies and solve puzzles. Well, to throw an egg, you first need to press A. This activates the aiming cursor. The cursor will move up and down repeatedly. When you press A again, Yoshi will throw an egg in the direction the cursor is pointing. If you want more precise aiming, after you activate the aiming cursor, you can press R. This will lock the cursor where it's pointing when you press the button. You can use this to make sure you're going to throw exactly where you want to. In each world, there are 2 castle levels. These are dark fortresses, each with a boss at the end, and I really love the bosses in this game. Instead of some fancy enemy you've never seen before, each boss is just a normal enemy that Kamek makes more powerful with his magic, and it really is pretty neat, and having Kamek swoop in at the beginning of each battle helps remind you of what your ultimate goal in the game is. Sometimes defeating a boss can be as simple as just throwing eggs at it, but other times it can take a little bit of thinking to figure out what you have to do. Like this boss, eggs do absolutely nothing here. You have to figure out that what you need to do is ground pound his head, which will split him in 2, but also make him smaller. It's really fun. The bosses in this game are actually really interesting, and since you never know what to expect, you always have to stay alert. I love it. The level design in this game is fantastic. The goal of each non-fortress level is to reach the goal ring at the end. Along the way, you have to pass a series of platforming challenges, avoid or kill enemies, and find collectibles. And the collectibles are really one of the best parts of this game. Each level has 5 smiley flowers and 20 red coins. In order to have a perfect score for the level, you need to find all 5 flowers and all 20 red coins. You also do earn points for how much health you have remaining, so you don't want to get hit. All total, you can end each level with up to 100 points. It's a great system as it gives you something to strive for in each level. If you complete a level with less than a perfect score, you're going to feel like you can do a lot better, and you're going to want to replay the level to try and get a better score. It increases the length of the game by a lot, so you're sure to get your money's worth here. Probably one of the biggest reasons these levels are so good is because of how dynamic they can be. Sometimes you'll be going through a level and you'll come across some random moving platforms, or you'll start skiing down a slope. The levels are so varied that it keeps things very interesting, so you're always going to look forward to what's coming up next. And that's a theme that's stuck with the Yoshi games to this day. Another thing I really love about the levels in this game is the difficulty progression. It starts out pretty easy, which almost lures you into a false sense of security. But the levels steadily get harder as you go, so by worlds 5 and 6, the levels are really hard. Like this level, I'd be pretty embarrassed to admit how many tries it took me to beat this level. And because of this, it feels really good when you actually beat a level, and it makes you feel like you've actually accomplished something. At the end of World 6, we finally reach Baby Bowser's castle. The level starts off with a very frustrating section. You have to transform into a helicopter and try to fly across a chasm. And it may not sound that hard, but while you're going, Kamek keeps flying by and trying to knock you out of the air. On top of that, there are some other enemies that are coming from the other direction. So if you go too fast, you might not be able to get out of their way, but if you go too slow, your transformation may wear off before you reach the end. Yeah, it's really hard. Then once you actually get into the castle, you have to throw an egg at one of 4 doors spinning up in the air. The door will fall and you can continue into the castle. Each door leads you on a different path through the castle, which is very similar to Bowser's Castle in Super Mario World, where you can choose one of 4 paths to take through the castle. All 4 paths eventually lead to a long room where Kamek is shooting magic at you. You just have to avoid him and get to the end of the room. Then it's time for Baby Bowser. You fight him on a bouncy floor, and when you pound the ground, you create a shockwave that travels across the floor. Hit Bowser with the shockwave 3 times to move on to the next phase of the battle. Now this part is pretty awesome. Kamek makes Bowser really big. Then, Bowser is off in the distance attacking by hurling rocks and fireballs at you, moving ever closer to your platform. Occasionally, a big egg will float in on a balloon and you need to grab it. Throw the egg at Bowser a bunch of times to defeat him. This part is really fun, but it can be pretty stressful because if he reaches your platform before you beat him, you're gonna die instantly. But once you defeat him, you finally meet up with baby Luigi and the stork, who evidently was also being held hostage. And now, baby Mario and baby Luigi can finally be delivered to their parents. Yoshi's Island is probably one of my favorite 2D platformers. The levels are interesting and dynamic, the game has a beautiful art style, and the story is fairly interesting. Now, this game isn't perfect. At times it can be extremely difficult, and the sound baby Mario makes when you get hit can make you want to throw your Super Nintendo out a window. But I think overall the good things about this game outweigh the bad. So if you haven't played this game, I would highly recommend you give it a shot. You won't regret it. Well, as long as you have some hearing protection for when you get hit. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and consider subscribing. Have you played this game or maybe another game in the Yoshi series? And which one's your favorite? Personally, my favorite is either Yoshi's Woolly World or Yoshi's Story. Please let me know your opinions down in the comments. So, until next time, so long.